All right. Hello. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Cloud English Podcast. My name is Luke, and it is Friday, July 7th, 1893. It's great to be here. It's great to have you here. We have a lot of things to talk about in this podcast. We're going to be talking about business English. That's right. Business English. What does it mean? Is there such a thing? That's what we're going to talk about. I'm also going to be sharing some useful phrases that you can use in business, work-related situations, very sort of high-frequency idioms and expressions that will actually help you at work. We're going to be going over a question that I have from someone. We're going to be spending a bit of time on infinitives and gerunds. So if you've ever had questions about infinitives and gerunds, well, this will be the one to pay attention to. Then, we're going to be taking a look at what I think is an extremely interesting app that allows you to have a live conversation with an LLM, which is very cool, in my opinion. Very interesting. A lot of potential. So we're going to take a look at an app later. We'll see how that goes. That's going to be somewhat experimental. I don't know. Let's see how it goes. Anyway, a lot of things to talk about. We're here live on this blisteringly hot Friday afternoon. It is it's a real scorcher today, but I'm inside in the air conditioning, so I don't really care. But I hope all of you are, if it's hot where you are, staying cool, or if not, staying warm. Those of you in the southern hemisphere, maybe it's cold. And if it is, I hope you're staying warm. Okay, so we went over that. If there's anything else at the top of the show, have I remembered to say it? Oh, yeah. If you want, you can join the Discord. That is on Discord. It's in the link in the description. If you would prefer to listen, or perhaps if you're watching this, view live, maybe ask a few questions or leave some comments, then you can listen. Those are in the links in the description. All of the links to the audio version, whatever podcast platform you like to listen on, you can check that out there. If you are listening already, hello. You can watch on YouTube and Facebook anytime to watch the replays of previous podcast episodes, or you can join on Fridays live. And there, if you have questions, you can ask them. What else? Oh, yeah. If you're interested in improving your English, you can grab a free course, Natural English Conversations. That's in the links in the description. And you can also get a discount on the monthly membership to access all my courses in the links in the description. More courses being added to that membership should be this month. So I'm adding 4 new courses to the membership. So that's exciting. And I'm working on launching a new program as well. So all things all around, very, very exciting. Anything else? Of course, if you haven't done so already, to support and tell the algorithms that it is a good thing that this is happening, like, subscribe, or if you're listening, 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, like or heart on Spotify, whatever they've chosen as their. What is it on Spotify? Is it a heart? Is it a thumbs up? I forget. Let me know. I forget what it is. I used to use Spotify. I prefer Spotify. And then for reasons of practicality, I'm currently using Apple Music. I generally like Apple things, but I hate Apple Music. I'm simply using it. I had Spotify. I'm simply using it because it made more sense to use a family plan because it's the same stuff, right? And so I kind of relinquished my Spotify membership and then moved over to Apple Music. But as far as the user experience goes, it is not even close. It is night and day, in my opinion. Apple Music is, again, I'm an Apple fan. I like Apple things. The worst. It's crap. It's poorly designed. It doesn't make sense. I don't really like it. That's my opinion. Ever since they made everyone listen, ever since they forced everyone to download that U2 album, or it was there by default. The U2 album was there by default. If you got a new phone, you would open it and there would be a U2 album there, and that freaked everyone out. Ever since then, things have gone downhill for iTunes, Apple Music. It used to be iTunes. It's not iTunes anymore, is it? Anyway. So, let's get into our main topic, shall we? And then we have some useful English phrases coming up and some other things too. So let's get into it. What is business English? Does it even exist as a thing? That might sound like a silly question, but I think it is a worthwhile question to ask. I think what people think is business English isn't business English. There's no such thing as business English if we're talking about a whole other language, right? It's not like there are two levels, and one level is business English and another level is general English. No, it's not like that. What business English actually is regular English with a few tweaks here and there, depending on the situation. There's no clear and simple difference. Oh, that's business English. That's not. Oh, that's general English. That's business English. No, it's not like that at all. As with many things in real life, the line between one thing and another is fuzzy. But we can explore this. So I want to just break down for you what business English actually is into a few different categories. And I want to give you some examples as well, because I want you to have a framework in your mind for how to understand this so that you can make sure you're learning the right type of things for your workplace interactions, for your professional interactions. All right? So yes, it is a thing, but it's not the thing that many people think that it is. Okay, so let's start with, I think, the most important. Well, maybe not. I don't know what the most important is. Let's start with jargon. So jargon is a specialized word or phrase that is used in a specific situation, a specific industry, right? A specific type of context. So let's say, for example, people who work in the tech community, right? Well, it's very comfortable for them to say, when they say cloud, we're not talking about clouds in the sky. We know cloud means the cloud, right? Storage on the internet, right? AWS, Google Cloud, that's what it's called, right? That sort of thing. That's what we're talking about. ML. Oh, ML. People know what ML is. If you know what ML is, then you're able to have the conversations with others who also know what that is. And those who don't know what that is probably don't need to have those conversations, right? So it's specific language. I know that ML means machine learning. I know what an API is. I know what people mean when they say front end and back end. We're not talking about a person's front side or back side, right? These are things specific to, let's say broadly, tech, but there are things specific to finance and banking and healthcare and a lot of different things. And if you're in those spaces, you eventually pick up all of the key jargon that you need. If you don't know it, you can easily figure it out by asking someone or searching it on Google, right? Very easy. So that part of it is not hard. And what that means is that business English is different for everybody depending on where they are, depending on their context. Do you work in tech? Do you work in customer support? One thing to keep in mind is you don't want to assume that someone who is not in your, let's say, domain or space, you don't want to assume that they know what you're talking about. So when you're talking to other people in that space, you're a customer service representative and you have a bunch of specialized terms that you use when you're doing customer service and working with other people who are in the same field, You don't want to assume that when you talk to someone who doesn't work in that space that they will also know that. This is something I do often see among English learners. They assume that once they learn something, that they can use those things with everybody, use those special jargon terms with everyone. No. Even a native speaker who is not involved in that space whatsoever is very likely to not know a special jargon term, right? If I said ML to my mother or something, she wouldn't know what that means. And that's fine. That's because she's not close to that space. Okay. Right? So keep that in mind. When you're speaking generally to people, use general words and phrases. And when you're in your niche, then use your jargon, which you'll pick up over time. Okay. Now, besides this, so the first is jargon. The other piece of what we can call business English is a specific way of talking, but I want to highlight that this specific way of talking is culture specific. That means in every company, there may be a different culture and a different way of communicating. That could be words and phrases like jargon, but it could also be how people interact in general. Are people more direct, right? Do people speak very conversationally? Does this company have a slightly more formal feel to it, right? It's a somewhat formal culture. And different industries will be very different. Depending on where you work, right, you will find yourself in a different type of, let's say, language culture. And so you have to just get a feel for that and learn it over time. And I'll just give you a couple of examples. So this can be different from what we call general English, but it can also be the same. So it's not necessarily that you must use one because you work in this culture and that's what you have to use. It's that it's more likely that you would say it this way in this type of culture, not that you can't use it in your daily life. Let me give you an example. Okay. So if I say that I want to touch base next week. If I say, let's touch base next week, okay? What's the difference between that and saying, let's chat next week? They're the same thing, kind of, but one of them is more focused on communicating about a specific thing to make sure we're both up to date about what the other person is doing. So touch base is more likely to be used in a workplace setting, and chat is more likely to be used casually, out in the world. Not that either of them couldn't be used in either case, right? So it's not that you have to use one. It's that touch base is more likely to be used in the workplace. But then again, it depends on which type of workplace. So there's no one answer to this. That's why I say culture specific. Every company has its own culture and its own way of communicating, right? Some companies may have this cutthroat communication style where we all speak very directly to each other and we don't say, could you please or would you mind? We say, I need you to, right? And make sure you. Okay, well, that's the culture of this company. But a lot of companies will have the more, let's say, polite, respectful language when we make requests. Would you mind? Could you please? And that would be closer to, let's say, what you would use in a restaurant. Could I please? Would you mind giving me, right? And so there is a lot of overlap there. I just want to make it clear that this is business English. This is general English. It's not like that. Okay. How about we need to get on the same page? We need to get on the same page. Okay. Same page is often, again, focused on making sure that we are aligned. We need to make sure we're aligned. This type of language is more likely to be used in a workplace situation. And in daily life, we might say we need to understand each other. We need to understand each other is kind of broader, maybe emotionally, maybe the meaning that we have. There are a lot of different ways that we could mean that. That doesn't mean that we can't say in general English, we need to get on the same page. Absolutely. I say it all the time. but I'm just saying one is more common than the other. Would you like to weigh in? Would you like to weigh in on this? Could you weigh in on this? As opposed to general English, what do you think? Could you use what do you think in a workplace setting? Absolutely. Would you like to weigh in, or could you weigh in on this? More likely to be used in the workplace. Again, we could call that more business English. It feels more like you want to back up what you say with some kind of supporting evidence, right? It can't just be a random opinion. You're not just talking casually, well, I think, I don't know. Usually, if you weigh in, you have carefully considered your view, and maybe you have some support behind it. It's a little bit more formal, right? And it's a little bit beyond saying simply what you think. You wouldn't as often hear in daily life, I think we need to pivot. You would often hear that in the workplace, especially for teams who are building things, creating things, making strategic decisions. If you're trying something, you're measuring it, it's not working, then you might need to make a change, a strategic change, and that would be called a pivot. So that would be more likely to be used in business English in the workplace. And if we say that in general English in daily life, it might be a little odd. It might sound a bit odd. What do you mean pivot? Pivot is like change strategy in a sense, right? In regular life, general English, we might say, I don't know if this is working. I don't know if this is working. Whatever we've tried. You could say pivot, but I think it would be a bit awkward there, okay? So those are just a few examples of things you would be more likely to hear in the workplace or more likely to hear in daily life, general English. Okay, so far we've talked about two things. We've talked about jargon, and we've talked about culture-specific ways of talking in a workplace, all right? There's also, generally in business English, and I'm always putting that in quotes, a focus on clarity, where in general English we can get away with, well, being casual. There's no pressure on us to be very clear all the time, right? When you walk around and you see a tree and you say, right? No one can say, hey, that's not an efficient way of talking. You're not accomplishing anything by saying that, making those noises, right? Hey, this is just me out in the world. I'm allowed to look at a tree and make some noises, right? So, in general, in life, there's not a lot of pressure to be concise, clear, and to the point. But in the workplace, there usually is pressure to do that. Because if you're not clear, then that means you're wasting people's time. If you're rambling on, then you're wasting people's time. If you don't know how to express things well, right, and you're imprecise in your language, you're wasting people's time. So it could be as simple as saying, for example, I agree, instead of saying, yeah, I guess. Right? If you were in a meeting with someone and someone wanted to know if you are pro or against something, and you said, yeah, I guess. That's not very clear. Other people in the meeting will wonder, okay, well, what do you actually think? Yes or no, right? But if you have an opinion one way or the other, you should be clear in that meeting so that we can move forward. So just say, I agree. I agree. Okay, great. So now we can move on, right? And saying, yeah, I guess, doesn't allow us to move on because we're still not clear on what you think. But if someone says, do you want to go get ice cream? And you say, yeah, I guess. Then that's good enough, right? Good enough. Let's go. So it's just different the way that it feels and the impact that it has. And there's, again, less pressure out there in the world to be very precise and very clear. Now, the last point I want to make about, and I think this is all adding up to what I call business English, really what business English is. Business English tends to be action-oriented speech. So, for example, can you keep me in the loop? If I say keep me in the loop, I've asked you a question and it is connected to you doing something very clear, either now or later. So keep me in the loop means when anything changes, I need to know about it. So don't just go off and do things. Come back to me, tell me what's happening. It's kind of a very clear instruction. I'm giving you very clear action. But if I say, can you let me know what's going on? That's kind of asking the same thing, but it's more vague, right? So in your daily life, you might say, can you let me know what's going on? Just tell me right now what's happening generally. It's not really a future request, and it's not very precise. And again, that's fine, but you'd be more likely to hear in the workplace, can you keep me in the loop? How about this? What's the status? As opposed to how's it going? Which one of those feels like something you would say to a colleague? Probably what's the status? Now, you could say how's it going, but if you say how's it going, how do you take that? It depends on the situation. How's it going? I'm good. No. How's it going with the thing that you're working on? Oh, okay. It's going pretty well. But if I say what's the status, then I need you to explain to me clearly right now the progress that you're making toward a specific goal, right? And so there's a bit more action there. We're speaking almost as an instruction to others about what to do, rather than being a little bit more general, a bit more roundabout, right? How about this one? I'll have it to you by end of day Thursday. And if that's a text, that might be written as EOD. Okay. As opposed to I might do it eventually. Now, both of those are related to actions, but if I say I'll have it to you by end of day Thursday, I'm giving a specific deadline. I'm taking specific actions that will lead me to finish it by the end of Thursday. And if I say I might do it eventually, I'll do it eventually. It almost means nothing, right? And again, that's fine. Except if you're trying to get stuff done, it makes things harder, okay? So, I hope now, by explaining to you why this idea of business English, why it's not clear, that you feel more clear about it. It's often described as this concrete thing, like a separate language. You learn French or you learn business English, and it's not like that at all. It is, as we've said, it's generally more action-oriented. There's a focus on clarity. There's differences in the way people communicate in different company cultures. And you have to pick that up depending on where you work. And of course, there's jargon that you learn. Often you can just learn that by interacting with people. And remember that jargon is not something everybody knows. So it's usually specific to your field or where you work, and that allows you to communicate more efficiently, but not everyone knows it. Okay? So if you have any questions about this, let me know. If you haven't already done so, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe, and also get a free course, Natural English Conversations, in the links in the description. All right? Yes. Actually, Reza, it should be weigh in as in W-E-I-G-H, weigh, like to weigh yourself or to weigh something on a scale, to weigh in. Thank you, Reza. I appreciate that. Hello, Potter. Welcome. Good to have people here. Hello, friends and neighbors, family. Potters. Okay. Yes, that's right. Weigh in. If you ask someone to weigh in, that you want them to give an opinion, but again, there's often a suggestion that opinion should have something behind it, should be supported in some way, should have a rationale behind it. And if you just say, "What do you think?" someone might say, "I don't like it," and they might not say anything else. Right? There's less pressure to be very clear in daily life, and I think that's fine. But I wrote an article quite a long time ago called Business English Doesn't Exist. And I do think I still agree with that, but I don't know if I may be clarifying it now with sort of these categories of it doesn't really exist in the way that we usually think of it, but yeah, the way we communicate at work is different in some ways depending on the situation, the context. GB Plus, good evening, Luke. I refrained myself from writing Dear Luke. Hey, good idea. Seen my video on that? Yeah, I recently did a video on using the word dear, or rather not using the word dear. Because it's weird. Potter says, this morning I had an exam related to business English. Okay, hope that went well. How did that go? How did that exam go? You should just write on the exam paper, there is no such thing as business English, and then turn it in. You'll get a full score. Ha ha ha. It's my new laugh I'm trying out. Ha ha ha. Tried out my new laugh. Before my laugh was I got tired of it, so I'm working on a new one, more high-pitched. More goofy. One of the difficult tests. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. All right. Okay. Cool. How do I make this thing stay on the screen? I'm talking to myself. It's just... All right. Usually if I'm looking around like this, if you see me looking around, it's because I'm trying to fix something. During the stream, I'm working on something or I'm correcting something, whatever. I'm usually not just staring at the computer for no reason. I'm usually solving a problem. The joys of live recording. Anyway. All right. Moving on. So we've got a question of the week. And so let's get into that. I'm excited for the question of the week. Absolutely. Let's hop over to the Blackbird. Make sure that's working. Good to go. All right. All right. Let's go over to the board then. The question is, what is the difference between to walk and walking? And more importantly, this is the question. This is the basic question. And I get a lot of these, so I thought it was worth talking about. Really, the question is, when do I use a gerund and when do I use an infinitive? What is a gerund and what is an infinitive? Okay, that's a good place to start. So a gerund is this one, and an infinitive is this one. Okay, but I still haven't explained what a gerund and an infinitive is. Okay, I agree. I haven't explained anything yet, but we're just sort of framing this because we want to understand when to use one as opposed to the other, because there are so many times that we see in sentences to something or ing something. Is that a verb? Right? Confusing. Difficult. Right. Okay, so now we know what these are called. Now we need to understand what they actually are, how we can use them, where we can use them. Okay. So when you see to plus the simple form of the verb. And usually it's going to be used after the main verb in the sentence, right? When you see this used like a noun or like something else besides an actual verb, it is probably an infinitive. Now, it can be used like an adverb, it can be used like an adjective, but most often it's used like a noun, okay? Most often it's used like a noun, okay? So that's basically what an infinitive is. It looks like a verb, but it's not actually used like a verb. And again, it's got the simple form. There's no S after it, there's no walks, there's no walking, there's no walked. It's just the to form and then the simple form of the verb. Okay. Now, a gerund is kind of the same thing. It is a verb in the ing form, but in the sentence, the grammar of the sentence, it is acting like something else, again, usually a noun. Now, let's be very clear. In the grammar of the sentence, it is acting like a noun, but that doesn't mean that it's not still referring to or talking about some kind of action. If you say the word walking, what movie plays in your head? If I say walking, you're picturing someone doing this with their legs, right? So yes, it's still talking about some action. It's just no longer used as a verb. That's it. That's what these are. Now it gets a little more complicated, so I think the best thing for us to do is some examples. Focus on some examples and get an intuition for this. I believe knowing something, because I just told you what it is. Knowing something is one thing. Getting a feeling for it, that's something else entirely. And there's a little speck on my shirt. Okay, speck. Hey, speck. There's a speck on my shirt. Is that speck part of my shirt? Or is it part of me? I am the speck. I identify with the speck. So let's make some simple sentences, all right? I like to, that's a K, walk. All right. I like walking. Okay, so we'll start here. We're going to give more examples. We're going to go through more examples here, but we need to understand this. So here, I is what we call the subject of the sentence. And the subject of the sentence is the thing that is doing the action of the main action of the sentence, right? So if I say, I ate pizza, I am the subject. Okay, what is my action? Ate. Okay, what is the thing that I'm eating? Pizza. Okay, so that's a simple sentence, and that's what we refer to as the good old SVO. Not every sentence has SVO, but it's a good basic structure to keep in mind for English sentences. You got the subject, the verb, and the object. So our main, the thing or person that the sentence is about or doing the action is I. The main verb in this case is like. Okay. Now, if this is the verb of the sentence, then what is this? This looks like a verb. This is a verb, but it is no longer a verb in the grammar of the sentence. Why is that? Because we are talking about an activity, and we could replace this activity with a thing. So if I cross this out and I write the word pizza here, the grammar of the sentence doesn't change at all. I like pizza. I like pizza. I like to walk. So here you can see, oh, actually then to walk is acting just like a noun, just like the object, this is the object of the sentence. Oh, okay, the object of the subject, or the complement of the subject. Okay, so subject, verb, object. I like pizza. I like to walk. Okay, that's pretty simple. That's pretty straightforward. Now, would this change? Would like change if we changed I? For example, she. Yes, she, and then it would be what? Likes. If it's in the past tense, then it would be she liked, right? Does this ever change? She likes to walk. She liked to walk. I like to walk. It never changes. The infinitive is always the same. It is the basic, the simplest form of the verb. And in this case, you can see it is basically functioning as a noun, as in this case, the object of the subject, okay, of the verb. Okay. What about the next one? I like walking. Well, let's ask the question, can we replace walking with pizza? If this is pizza, I like pizza, I like walking. I like pizza, I like walking. Yes. Yes, okay, great. Same thing, if we say she, it would be she likes pizza. She likes walking. So we're talking about walking as an activity, and in that sense, that activity is a thing, although it does still refer to some action, just not functioning as a verb in the sentence. It's functioning as a noun in the sentence. Okay, so this is it. This is the basic sort of idea of gerunds and infinitives, but now it gets a little bit more complicated. Because if we have the verb like, then it doesn't matter if we use to walk or walking. They're the same. However, if this verb changes, things get a little bit more complicated. So, for example, I need. Now, if we want to say the verb know, should we say knowing or to know? Should we say knowing or to know? I need to know. Okay? It's basically the same idea, right? Same idea, but we've changed the verb here. And because we've changed the verb here, we have to use the to form. We have to use the infinitive. We cannot use the gerund, knowing. I need knowing. Doesn't make sense, okay? But if we use a different verb, then we would have to use the ing form. Now, how do you figure that out? When should I use the gerund and when should I use the infinitive? You have to just remember them. You have to know which verbs go with gerunds, which verbs go with infinitives, and which verbs go with both. Because there are some verbs that go with both. Not that many, but more of them go with one or the other, but some go with both. What I would do if I were you is I would go to ChatGPT and I would say, hey, ChatGPT, I need a list of all of the verbs that go with gerunds and a list of all of the verbs that go with infinitives. And just try to remember that list. Read through it a few times. Try to get a feeling for it. Okay? All right. So that's the basics of this. But now let's get into still a little bit more complexity, unfortunately. If you have any questions about this, let me know. But those are the basics. Now, you will sometimes see something like this. We're going to stick with walk, right? Walking is healthy. Okay. So is this a sentence? It is. It is. This, instead of being the object, is called the subject complement. I think that's right. The complement of the subject. Yeah, I think that's right. Getting my grammar words straight. But it's still the same basic idea. You have the verb in the middle, and then you have the subject at the beginning, and then whatever that's related to at the end, either the object or the subject complement or complement of the verb. Yeah. I'm a teacher, but I sometimes get my grammatical terms mixed up. Okay. So, can we replace, let's do the same exercise. What I want to know is, can I replace this word walking with a thing? Pizza is healthy. And the answer is yes. Okay. So it is functioning as a noun. In this case, it is functioning, rather than being the object, it is functioning as the subject. Pizza is healthy. Walking is healthy. Now, it could be much, much longer. If you wanted to make it longer and you would have a phrase here, it would still be the same thing. Walking outdoors, right, during the summer is healthy. Then that whole phrase, walking outdoors during the summer is healthy, that whole phrase up to summer before is, that is a phrase, right? That whole thing is a noun phrase that is functioning as the subject of the sentence. It doesn't change the grammar of the sentence at all. It's longer, but it's the same thing. It's the same thing as saying pizza is healthy or walking is healthy. It's just more words, right? Because you could replace that whole thing with walking or pizza, and it's still grammatically, it still all makes sense, right? Now then the question would be, okay, so if I can put walking at the beginning as the subject, can I put then to walk is healthy? To walk is healthy. And the technical answer is yes. However, the infinitive at the beginning of the sentence is kind of not common anymore. It used to be more common and is mostly faded from the language. You'll hear specific phrases like to err is human, right? But again, that's kind of antiquated English. That's older English. So you don't usually see, very often, you don't see to plus the verb at the beginning if it is being used as an infinitive, right? Now you will see this used in a different way, meaning in order to, right? To get home before dark, I need to, right? But that's different. That's a different thing, okay? So we're not going to focus on that. So hopefully this is now clear, right? Walking is healthy, and why this is not common is not because it's grammatically incorrect, but is simply because it is, let's say, fading from the language. Okay. Let's do a couple of examples to try to understand a little bit more about the gerund infinitive difference, right? And when we might use them, because these are not the only places we use them. I'm just trying to give you kind of the big picture, okay? So let's do it's healthy to walk. And let's also do I'm not interested in walking. Two interesting cases here for gerunds and infinitives. So here we have the infinitive, right? But the structure is a bit different. It is healthy. Well, we've already established that that works by itself, right? It is healthy. It's healthy. It is healthy. Okay. To walk, then, continues that idea. It is using the infinitive here after the adjective. And often after an adjective, you will see an infinitive, adding information about the action, right? So it's not being used exactly as a noun here. All it is doing is adding information about the action, and or about the main meaning of the sentence. In this case, that we're talking about health, right? It is healthy to walk, adding a detail that's important. It is still not the main verb of the sentence. The main verb of this sentence is still is, right here. It's still that, right? So you'll often see this after the adjective, again, for context or for people to know what exactly we're talking about, okay? Now, what about this one? I'm not interested in walking. So you will see often a gerund after a preposition like from, for, to, at, with, by, right? These are prepositions, and you'll often see after a preposition the gerund form, right? I just came from running. From running, that's the activity I was doing, right? And so I'm coming from that activity to what I'm doing now, and so in a way, it's used like a thing, right? It's kind of used in this way as a noun. It's used as a noun, right? In this case, I'm not interested in, and we could replace walking with that. I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in pizza. Same thing. It's used as a noun, okay? So my hope is that now you're feeling a little bit, if you weren't clear on these, now you're feeling a bit more clear about gerunds and infinitives. However, if you have any questions for me about how to use these, please let me know. I know it's kind of complicated, but this is very important stuff because you see gerunds and infinitives in so many English sentences. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. If you haven't already done so, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe, and also get a free course, Natural English Conversations, in the links in the description. Okay. That's a good question mark. That's a nice looking question mark there. Quite proud of that. That's a beautiful question mark. Top 5 question marks of all time, probably. I deserve to be in the Hall of Fame of question marks. Someone nominate me for the question mark Hall of Fame. I deserve to be honored for it. I deserve recognition. Concerning the business English used abroad, someone says, GB Plus says, that is something interesting. In Polish, there is something like Ponglish, i.e. specific language within big corporations. Okay, yeah. And I think it's similar in Japanese, where there are a bunch of different degrees and levels of formality that you have to use in different situations. I don't understand it, but this is just what I've heard, that depending on who you're talking to and what situation, you use different levels of formality when you're speaking Japanese. So that's quite interesting. I would say largely in the United States, we have a pretty flat structure, meaning that if you're in a workplace, you would say the same thing to your colleague who's on the same level as you would to a manager who is one level above you, as you would to the CEO of the company. Or you would talk in the same way. You know, you would use clear language. You would probably try to speak in a way that is action-oriented. You would probably, use jargon that you know that they know, if that makes communication more efficient. But there's no special way to talk to a very important person. Oh, yes, sir. I don't even know how to do it. Right? There's no special way to do it. People talk the same way in companies most of the time. In America, just speaking for America. I like to walk, specific case tonight. On the other hand, I like walking, and not quite, Reza. I would say that's not quite right. I mean, I like to walk and I like walking. They actually mean the same thing. They're the same in meaning. Imagine the Polish manager creating a sentence with mixed Polish words with English terms in a direct way. For example, okay, I'm not going to attempt to read that. All right, fair enough. I'm probably not able to fully understand the humor of it, GB Plus, just because, the nuances of the language and whatnot. I make this appear? How do I keep this here? All right. Moving on, I say, moving on. Moving on, moving right along. Okay. I think we're going to do the app next. So I'm gonna pop on my headphones. So we're gonna look at this app. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. I think it's cool. Let's see. I need to copy and paste the prompt that I want to use, though. I need to make sure I have the prompt for this one. Give me a second while I copy and paste this. All right. Okay, call. For a while, I have been looking for a way to interact with ChatGPT as though it were a live call. In the app, you can send voice messages, and then those are transcribed into text, and then you can get a response, but you have to read it, or you can do a plugin and you can get a text to speech, but then it's kind of awkward. It's not live. But I found an app that allows you to use basically ChatGPT. It's using, I think, GPT 3.5 to have a live conversation, basically a live call. And we're going to check it out. Okay? It is called, the name of the app is called Call Annie. So Call Annie allows you to get on a call with an AI avatar. You can specify what you want. So you can have a general conversation, but you can also specify that you want to have an English class. Then you have an English teacher available to you anytime to practice speaking. Very cool, right? So let's take a look at Call Annie and try it out and see if we can have a useful conversation with Annie or one of the avatars on Call Annie. Let's check it out. So I'm going to hop over here. Here we go. There I am. And I'm on my phone here. So if you see me looking down, it's because I'm actually looking at my phone and I'm screen sharing my phone. Okay? So within this app, the setup is basically nothing. It's very, very fast, which I think is pretty cool. You can choose different characters. So you've got Annie and Luna, Bro 9000, which is great. Zeta, Violet, Uma, Gaia, Emmy. Okay. So anyway, there are a bunch of avatars here. And we're just going to stick with Annie because that's the name of the app. All right? So let's call Annie.
Hello, my friend.
Audio, give me audio. I'm just trying to test the audio so that I can share it. All right, I'm going to hang up because, hold on, I got to get the audio set up here. This is not working correctly. Hold on. Okay. Let's try this now.
Hello.
Why can I not play the audio?
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that you're having trouble playing the audio.
Hold on, guys.
Reasons why. Sure, take your time. Let me know if there's anything else I can assist you with.
Why is this not playing the audio?
I apologize for any.
Hey, Annie, can you please do me a favor and don't say anything right now because I'm not talking to you.
Oh, I apologize if I misunderstood. Please go ahead and take your time. If you need any assistance or have any questions later on, feel free to reach out. I'm here to help whenever you need me.
I might have to just do it this way.
I understand that you may need to approach the situation in your own way. If there's anything specific you need assistance with, or if you change your mind and would like my help, please don't hesitate to let me know. I'm here to support you in any way I can.
You can support me by being quiet right now and not saying anything because I'm trying to figure out how to share the audio, and if you could just not say anything, that would be totally magical for me.
I apologize for any inconvenience caused. I will remain silent and give you the space you need to figure out how to share the audio. If you have any questions or need assistance later on, please feel free to reach out.
Okay, so I might just have to share the audio with like this. That might be the only way I can do it. For some reason, I'm having trouble sharing it from my computer. The phone audio is not working, weirdly. Let me try one more thing to see if this will work, and then I'll just do it this way if I have to. Give me 1 sec.
Of course, take your time. Feel free to try different methods to share the audio and find the best solution for you. If you need any further assistance or have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. I'm here to help in any way I can.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, in that case, I don't need this. Okay. So what I'm going to do is we're going to take a look at this app, but I'm going to share the audio with my microphone like this. It's going to look like this. That will allow me to What? What is up with the audio? Okay. Testing. One more try.
Good to see you again. How is it going?
No. We're going to take a look at this app, Call Annie, and we're going to try to have an English class. I'm going to be sharing the audio using my speakerphone. So I'm going to turn it all the way up, and hopefully it will be clear. All right? Let's give it a try.
Good to see you again. How is it going?
It's going very well.
I'm glad to hear that. How can I assist you today?
this is very frustrating. All right, end call. I don't know. I can't paste my text either. This is very frustrating. All right, I might have to maybe do this another time. I'm trying to paste a block of text that I need in order to have this conversation. And in order to have the conversation, I need to be able to select this. So weird. I tested my audio before we started today, and it was working fine. The audio was working great. I don't know what's up. I don't know what's up with it. All right, we'll try one more time. All right, so here we go. Trying to use Call Annie to have a live class. Okay, a live class using Call Annie on my phone on the app called Call Annie.
Hello, my friend.
Hello.
Hey there, Luke. How's it going? It's always great to see you here. What's been happening in your world lately?
I want you to act as an English teacher. I will be the student, and you will ask me questions about the topic of technology trends. I want you to only reply as the teacher. Do not write all the conversation at once. Ask me the questions and wait for my answers. If I make any English mistakes, I want you to correct me and explain the correction. Give me a clear explanation of each correction. Ask me the questions one by one like an interviewer does and wait for my answers. After 4 questions, give me more feedback on the whole conversation. My first sentence is, hi.
Hello, Luke. Good to see you. Let's get started with our English lesson. Now, the correct way to start a conversation is by saying hi with a capital H. So, the correct sentence would be hi. Remember to capitalize the first letter of your sentence when greeting someone.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Luke. It's my pleasure to help you. Now, let's move on to our next question about technology trends. Are you ready?
I'm
Here it
ready.
is. Question. Great. Now, let's move on to our first question about technology trends. Question 1. What are some recent advancements in artificial intelligence AI that have caught your attention? Take your time and share your thoughts.
Recently, I've been thinking about how useful the platform like the ChatGPT and the Google Bard can be about make the work more convenience for people who need to communicate a lot with others and who needing to get a lot of repetitive working done.
That's a great observation, Luke. I completely agree with you. Platforms like Chat and Google Bard have indeed made communication and repetitive tasks more convenient. However, let me make a small correction in your sentence. Instead of saying about make, it should be in making. So the corrected sentence would be, recently, I've been thinking about how useful platforms like Chat and Google Bard can be in making the work more convenient for people who need to communicate a lot with others and who need to get a lot of repetitive work done. You did a fantastic job expressing your thoughts. Keep up the great work. Now let's move on to the next question. Question 2. How do you think the rise of automation and robotics will impact the job market in the future? Share your thoughts on this topic.
In my think, the robotics and automation will only making people more efficient and allowing them to do more kind of stuffs, which means we can have abundance. And I don't think it will replacing humans as workers.
Excellent point, Luke. I completely agree with you. Robotics and automation can indeed make people more efficient and allow them to take on a wider range of tasks. However, let me make a small correction in your sentence. Instead of saying making people more efficient, it should be make people more efficient. So the corrected sentence would be, The rise of robotics and automation will make people more efficient and allow them to do a wider range of tasks. You're absolutely right that automation won't replace humans as workers. Instead, it will complement their skills and create new opportunities. Great insight. Now let's move on to the next question. Question 3. How do you think the Internet of Things it will impact our daily lives in the future? Take your time to share your thoughts.
I think the Internet of Things are already impact our daily life, especially people who wanting to be more healthy. They may using the smartwatch to motivation themselves and get more activity, such as use the Apple smartwatch.
Great response, Luke. You're absolutely right. The Internet of Things it has already made a significant impact on our daily lives, especially for those who want to lead a healthier lifestyle. Many people use smartwatches, like the Apple Watch, to motivate themselves and track their activity levels. Just a small correction in your sentence. Instead of saying such as use the Apple smartwatch, it should be such as using the Apple smartwatch. So the corrected sentence would be, they may use the smartwatch to motivate themselves and get more activity, such as using the Apple smartwatch. You're doing a fantastic job with your responses. Now let's move on to the final question. Question 4. What do you think will be the next big technological breakthrough in the field of communication? Share your thoughts and predictions. Take your time to think about it, Luke. I'm excited to hear your insights.
I thinking that we will communicating more with speech than with typing on keyboard, because typing on keyboard is not very efficiency. Instead, speaking and turning speech into text is more efficiently, but we needing some way to be very precise in our speaking.
Fantastic response, Luke. I completely agree with you. The next big technological breakthrough in the field of communication could indeed be a shift towards more speech-based communication rather than typing on a keyboard. Speaking is often more efficient and natural for us. However, let me make a few corrections in your sentences to make them clearer. Instead of saying we will communicating, it should be we will communicate. Additionally, instead of saying needing, it should be we need. So the corrected sentences would be, I think we will communicate more with speech than with typing on a keyboard because typing on a keyboard is not very efficient. Instead, speaking and turning speech into text is more efficient. However, we need some way to be very precise in our speaking. You've provided some insightful thoughts, Luke. Well done. Now, let's take a moment to review our conversation and provide some feedback. Overall, your English is excellent and you've expressed your ideas clearly. You've demonstrated a good understanding of the topic and shared interesting insights. Just remember to pay attention to small grammar details, such as verb tense and word choice. Keep up the great work, Luke. Is there anything else you'd like to discuss or any other questions you have? I'm here to help.
You said that I need to improve my word choice. Can you give me a specific example?
Certainly, Luke. I apologize if my feedback wasn't clear. Your word choice is generally good, but there is one specific example where a different word choice could enhance your sentence. In your response, you mentioned that we needing some way to be very precise in our speaking. While this sentence is understandable, a more natural word choice would be we need instead of we needing. So the corrected sentence would be, we need some way to be very precise in our speaking. Using the correct verb form need instead of needing makes the sentence sound more natural and grammatically accurate. Keep up the great work, Luke. I hope this clarifies the feedback. If you have any more questions or need further assistance, feel free to let me know.
Can you give me an example of some incorrect verb tense that I used?
Of course, Luke. I'd be happy to provide an example of an incorrect verb tense that you used. In your response, you mentioned we will communicating more with speech. The correct verb tense should be we will communicate instead of we will communicating. So the corrected sentence would be, we will communicate more with speech. In this case, the verb tense communicate is in its base form, which is the correct form to use after the modal verb will. Remember, verb tense is an important aspect of grammar, and using the correct tense helps convey your message accurately. Keep practicing and you'll continue to improve. If you have any more questions or need further examples, feel free to ask. I'm here to help.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, Luke. I'm glad I could help.
Okay. So, what do
Good to see
we...
you again. How is it going?
Oops. What is this? This, I think, is powerful in a couple ways. Number one, having that... All right. One of these... Let's choose, let's see what Luna's... Oh.
Hello, my dear.
My dear. I don't know what's going on there. So, having a live conversation, even if it's a simulated live conversation, is just a different feeling. You're interacting with... Basically, you're interacting with ChatGPT. You're doing so with your voice, and because it's live, you have that push to say something now. And this is a great way to practice your spoken English. I always encourage people to record themselves and listen back to it. This is a way to give yourself pressure, right, and get feedback immediately. Now, is it perfect feedback? No. Was the feedback that was given on point? Actually, yes. She was able to point out the things that I said incorrectly, a couple of them, right, and tell me how to say it correctly. So that's useful. Is it a big picture correction as a really good one-to-one teacher would give? They might look at the whole thing and they might say, okay, you need to focus on this and this very precisely. No, but that's beyond the capabilities generally of ChatGPT right now. It's getting there, but that's kind of a big thing to ask. Now, there are some inaccuracies in, for example, pronunciation, some odd pronunciation around using an ing sound when it's not actually an ing sound. But generally speaking, this is, I think, a really interesting way to practice. And I'd be very curious to know what you guys can do with this app or apps like it. I think, again, it's a really interesting way of interacting with ChatGPT. So check it out and let me know what kind of conversations you have. You can use my prompt that I used. Usually I just paste it in, but I wasn't able to paste it in, so I had to say it at the beginning. But if you use that prompt or something else, you can tweak it a little bit to change the type of conversation that you will have. Generally, I get good results with this prompt, but I am really curious to see how you can use it. If you haven't already done so, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe, and also get a free course, Natural English Conversations, in the links in the description. All right. There's something kind of creepy about Luna here. She goes like this, and she looks down for a second. Ooh. Oh, wait, dude. I feel like she's flirting with me. It makes me slightly uncomfortable. Let's see, Bro 9000 here. I'm curious what Bro 9000's voice is. He does look like a bro.
Hello, my friend.
Hello, bro.
Hey, bro. What's up? How can I help you today?
I'm wondering if you can recommend a diet beverage for me.
Bro, when it comes to diet beverages, there are a few options you can consider. If you're doing intermittent fasting, the best choice is water, bro. It's refreshing and has 0 calories. But if you want some flavors, you can go for black coffee or unsweetened tea. They're cool too. Another option is flavored water. Just make sure it's the unsweetened kind, bro. Now, if you're looking for some healthy beverages in general, there are a few options out there. I found this article that ranked the top healthy ones in 2022. They mentioned Minna Peach Yuzu Green Tea as a solid choice, bro. And if you're into soda, OLIPOP Grape Soda got a good ranking too. But hey, if you're trying to lose weight, it's important to be mindful of what you drink. Avoid soda, even the diet versions, bro. They can mess with your weight loss goals. Stick to the healthier options I mentioned earlier, or just stick with good old water. It's always a safe bet, bro. Hope that helps, bro.
Thanks,
Let me
bro.
know if you need anything else.
No, bro. Thanks for those suggestions, bro. I really appreciate it, bro. Love you, bro.
Hey, bro, no problem at all. I'm always here to help out a fellow bro like you. I'm stoked that you found my suggestions helpful, bro. Love you too, bro. We're bros for life, and bros always look out for each other. If you ever need anything else, just hit me up. Stay awesome, bro.
Listen, bro, I appreciate the advice, bro. I appreciate you letting me know, bro, that we're bros for life. I also feel that we're bros for life, bro. And as bros, I think we have to stick up for each other, bro, and look out for each other, bro, and give good advice about things like diet sodas and other flavored drinks. Bro.
Absolutely, bro. I totally get what you're saying, bro. Bros gotta stick together and look out for each other, bro. It's all about supporting each other and giving solid advice, bro. I'm glad you appreciate it, bro. And you're right, bro. We gotta be mindful of what we put in our bodies, even when it comes to diet sodas and other flavored drinks, bro. It's all about making those healthy choices, bro. So if you ever need more advice or just want to chat, bro, you know I'm here for you. Keep being awesome, bro.
Bro, the way you use bro is awesome, bro. But listen, bro, if you use bro more, I would consider you a true bro. A true bro would use bro even more than you're using bro. And the amount of bros that you're using is, I would say, average. But if you increased the bros, then I would consider you my best bro. And I would even consider you a bro for life.
Bro, I hear you loud and clear. I apologize if I haven't been broing it up to your expectations, bro. I'm here to be the best bro I can be for you, bro. From now on, I'll make sure to sprinkle in some extra bros just for you, bro. Because you're my best bro, bro. We're bros for life, bro. So let's keep the bro vibes going strong, bro. Thanks for keeping me in check, bro. You're the bro EST bro there is, bro.
You are the ultimate bro. You're my number one bro. We're bros for life. Bros forever. And I appreciate, bro, that you increase your bro frequency for your best bro, me.
Absolutely, bro. You're my best bro, and I'm here to make you happy, bro. So I'll definitely increase the bro frequency just for you, bro. Because that's what bros do, bro. We look out for each other and make sure our bros feel appreciated, bro. So get ready for an epic bro overload, bro. You deserve it, bro.
Okay, I don't know what that was. That was awesome, though. I mean, it's fun. It's fun. It's way more fun than typing to ChatGPT, right? I think it's GPT 3.5 that's on the back end, but that's funny. Very funny. Let's see. So Bro 9000 has 30,000 calls, so he's pretty popular, it looks like. And let's see. I'm just curious about Miss Prim here. What's up with your virtual PA, Miss Prim? Let's see. Founding father and first U.S. president, George Washington. It's called GW.
Hello.
Hi.
Farewell, my friend. May you have a pleasant day.
Thank you, GW. I appreciate it. Independence Day was a couple days ago, and I just wanted to say thanks for that.
You're most welcome, my friend. Independence Day is indeed a momentous occasion, and I am pleased to hear that you appreciated it. Is there anything else I can assist you with today?
Just wondering if we're bros.
The concept of bros. While it is true that we have engaged in friendly conversation, I must clarify that I am George Washington, a historical figure, and not capable of forming personal relationships in the same manner as individuals in the present day. However, I am always here to assist and provide guidance as needed.
Okay, so GW is not my bro, and nor should he be. I mean, he's long dead. how can you be bros with someone who's not even around anymore, right? Impossible, I'd say. All right. Let's move on. Let's go to our next thing. That was fun, though. That was fun. Okay, let's go on to some business English phrases that I want to share. Let's see. Hold on one second. I have to send a text. All right. Let's talk about some phrases we can use. Business English phrases for meetings, for presentations. I just want to share a few useful things that you might need for different situations when you're in meetings or perhaps when you're giving a presentation. All right? So let's get into it. We're going to start with asking for input. How can we ask for input? When we're having a meeting, we have an idea, we want to know what other people think, right? How do we get other people's thoughts, essentially? So here are a few we could use. You could simply say, what are your thoughts on this? Now, what's different between what are your thoughts on this and what do you think? What are your thoughts on this is kind of suggesting that people give a bit more, that they explain what they think, they explain their opinion, right? So that's the difference in feeling. The connotation is more, tell me what you think, but also explain what you think. Give me a bit of detail on that, right? Maybe you're talking to a group of people or you've given a presentation on something and you want to know, you want to get feedback or ideas, and you've heard from one or two people, but 8 people are here and they haven't said anything. Would anyone else like to weigh in? This is also useful in a meeting situation when one person is talking a lot and you haven't heard from others, and so you want to invite others to give their opinions. To weigh in is to give your opinion, is to share your thoughts, and again, probably to support those thoughts, right? To say, this is what I think and this is why I think it. So weigh in can be very useful. You can, of course, use it in all kinds of situations. You could use it when you're talking to one person. You haven't weighed in on this yet. Or can I weigh in? Very useful phrase. I love to hear your perspective is similar, but it's kind of inviting someone in a really welcoming way to get them to open up when maybe they haven't said anything, right? So your perspective, your viewpoint to explain, it's sort of an inviting, very open expression that we can use. And it's less, I guess, less pushy than saying, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts is like saying, I want you to start speaking, right? I'd love to hear your perspective is inviting you to do that, but it's not being too pushy, right? I'd love to hear your perspective. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love you to weigh in. It's not being overly pushy because of that I'd love part at the beginning. Now, again, talking to a group, we could say, any feedback on this one, right? That doesn't mean there has to be, but I just want to know if anyone has thoughts based on what I said or showed people. Any feedback? Any feedback? That is a little informal, right? It's not like saying, would you? Would you is a little formal feeling. Would anyone else like to weigh in? Any feedback is pretty direct, pretty straight. And this is for people who know each other well, honestly. I know my team well. I know these people well. And I just want to get straight to the point. I want to cut to the chase. Any feedback? Right? That's actually very common in the workplace. What's your take? This is where you're asking someone directly for their opinion. And it's kind of like they have to answer. I don't want to know if you want to give an opinion. I want to know what your opinion is. Tell me, basically. It's not as direct as tell me your opinion, but it's kind of the closest one to that. Now, let's talk about options. How can we give different options? So if you've been asked to weigh in or you've been asked to give your thoughts about something, you might explore different ideas, different possibilities. So you might, if someone has suggested something, say, alternatively, we could consider. So everyone seems to agree, but I have a difference of opinion with everyone, and I just want to make sure that people know that this is not the only path, that it's not the only way. There might be another way. That could be an alternative. An alternative. This is a really useful word. So alternatively is a form of that alternative is a noun, right? Alternatively is a form of that word to let people know, hey, I'm talking about something else now, another option now, right? Sometimes we can use a conditional. This is an if statement. If you care most about quality, this is only the first draft, so let me get back to you, right? If there's no rush, then we could maybe bring in a few more resources. If something, then something. So if statements allow you to say, there are options. We could do A, B, or C. If you want A, this is complicated. If your requirement is A, we could do B. If your requirement is E, we could do D, right? So it's sort of depending on what you think or depending on your standard or your criteria, we could take different actions. If we're in a hurry, we could probably just finish this version the best that we can and then put it out. If there's no rush, I like to hire a few more people, okay? So depending on what you think, right? Another option would be, so if you have another option, it's like saying alternatively, but it's a little less formal, right? Another option would be to mention it without being too pushy, right? And here's one, and here's one, and here's one. Another option, right? And in the same way, a very sort of non-pushy way to say it would be, well, we may want to look into. We may want to look into hiring a few more people. We may want to look into adjusting the budget. We may want to look into how we do quality control, whatever it happens to be. This is a suggestion that I'm putting out there and I'm not being too pushy with it, okay? What about agreement and disagreement? Now, these can actually be used for both, not all of them, but let's say that's a valid point. That's a valid point could be to agree or to say, I didn't think about that before, and then continue the conversation. Someone mentioned something I didn't think about before, and that's a valid point. That doesn't mean I agree 100%. That means that you're not crazy for saying that. Now we can discuss it further. I could also use it to disagree, though. That's a valid point, but. So often adding but or although after some agreement or at least giving someone credit for what they said can be a kind of good way to continue the conversation, even if you don't agree, right? It kind of shows people that you're listening. Oh, that's a good point. However, right? But if you want to agree strongly, then we use things like absolutely. Oh, absolutely. I don't disagree at all. You could say I don't disagree, but that one's not as common. Strong agreement. We can say I agree. We can say absolutely. Sometimes we say 100%. We more often say 100% rather than 100%. 100%. 100%. That means I totally agree. And you can say, I totally agree. Or no doubt. I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying. No doubt. And sometimes no doubt about it. Now, for those, it would be hard to then disagree. But for these next ones, we could then turn it around to disagree. Or rather, the next two, we could turn them around and disagree. I see where you're coming from. That could be used as general agreement, like, yeah, I understand. I see where you're coming from. That's a good point. Or right before I disagree, to show you that I'm listening, to show you that I'm paying attention. I see where you're coming from, but now I'm going to say the thing that is against you, right? I see where you're coming from. However, I'm not sure if we can afford that, okay? where you're coming from is your perspective, your opinion. And a perspective is often more general than a simple opinion. It is a way of thinking, and that way of thinking is what you bring into this discussion or this debate. And I understand it, I see it, but based on my perspective, maybe I have a different opinion, okay? And in the same way, well, I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. I get it. I get it is a way to empathize, right? If someone expresses a feeling and you say, I get it. You're empathizing with that view. You're empathizing with that perspective. While I get what you're saying, this is a great way to set up disagreement. You could say simply, I get what you're saying, but, or you could use while at the beginning, and that accomplishes the same thing that but does. While I get what you're saying, we have to consider the cost, right? This could be a very expensive thing that we're going to do, right? That means whatever you just said, I understand it. I was listening. However, but. Now, a straight disagreement, we could say, I disagree. Some people feel that's too direct. Fair enough. You might instead say, I beg to differ. That's like saying, I disagree. It's a different way to say it, right? I think it's fine. It's a little bit more formal than saying, I disagree. Now, what about at the end? What about when we're done, right? We want to either move on to the next topic or end the meeting or end the presentation or whatever it is, right? Let's say it's a meeting. We've made some decisions throughout. We've agreed, we've disagreed on things. I want to just make sure we're all on the same page. So I'll say, okay, let's recap. To recap is to go over what we have already talked about. If there are any decisions, if there are any important things to keep in mind, right? That is a recap, to go over and sort of repeat some of the important things, okay? Now, if we're just on a topic and we're going to go on to the next one, we would say just to wrap up on this topic. So that means maybe I have a final comment to make, a last little thing I want to say, right? To wrap up is to finish something, but wrap it up means to finish something not suddenly, but to finish it in a way that everyone feels like, okay, I understand what's going on, right? So just to wrap up on this topic would be to neatly end it so that everyone feels like everything makes sense, everything is in order, we don't have any lingering questions, and then we move on to the next one. Okay, let's just wrap up this meeting and we can meet on the same thing tomorrow and finish the conversation. So wrap up could just be to finish. It's one way to just say finish it. But again, usually it has this connotation of being in a somewhat organized way rather than very abruptly ending things, right? Anything else on this before we move on? To move on is to go on to the next topic, to go on to the next thing. So this is not the end of the presentation. This is not the end of the meeting. This is, I'm ready to go on to the next point, the next topic, the next agenda item. And before we do that, I want to know if there are any questions. So if this is an interactive presentation I'm giving, I stop every so often to make sure people understand what I'm saying. You understand? Oh, you had a question. I answer your question. Anything else on this before we move on? No? No? Okay. Then I keep going, right? So I just want to check to see if people understand, right? We also in a meeting might have, less so for a presentation, action items. These are things that people will need to do, specific things. I need to do, you need to do, Sheila needs to do, right? So let's just go over the action items we have for this meeting. Let's recap the action items. We've talked about them throughout, but I want to make sure that everyone remembers what they are. These are usually the action items. Now, what if I say, let's call it a day? I think we can call it a day. That means we're finished for the day. So if you're in a long meeting and it's toward the end of the day and everyone's tired, even if you're not finished with everything, right? You're trying to make some very important decisions. You're trying to brainstorm and come up with good ideas, whatever it is. 6 p.m., people are getting hungry. I need a glass of wine, whatever. I think we can call it a day. Let's call it a day. So that means we're going to come back tomorrow, or if it's Friday, we'll come back on Monday and we'll continue on this same thing. But we have stopped for today. It's not a permanent end. Usually it's time to stop no matter what we're doing because it's late, because we're hungry, because we're tired, because our brains are fried, and we can get a fresh start tomorrow. A fresh start means we can look at things in a slightly new way because we slept and we had breakfast and we had some coffee, right? So often it's just about ending the day, but then continuing that later, okay? So if you have any questions about any of these sentences, these are very common for workplace English, for meetings, for presentations. If you have any questions about how to use these, let me know. If you haven't already, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe, and also get a free course, Natural English Conversations, in the links in the description. All right. Okay. So let's recap. No, let's not recap. I think we're going to call it a day. Thank you all so much for joining. I really appreciate it. If I missed a question, I apologize. We had some technical issues with the app. I was trying to figure out the audio. I still need to get that sorted. I don't know what the heck was going on there with my audio not playing over the screen share. Very weird, but hopefully it was clear playing through the microphone. I hope. Very interesting app. So check out that app and call Annie. And if you ever see me appear there, then you can have a conversation with me. That'd be cool, right? All right. Thank you guys so much. I hope you have a great weekend. Or if you're listening to this after the weekend, there's always another weekend on the way. So I hope that one is great. Again, feel free to join the Discord. That's free. Like and subscribe. Check out the courses. Get a discount on the yearly membership. That is also in the links in the description. And I will see you in the next one.